Hi there guys, sorry it's been a little bit late on the update. I was aiming to do one a month, but as always life and work kind of got in the way, so it's one of them. As you can probably see from the last update, there's been quite a lot of amends and there's been quite a lot of new additions to the tank, and that's mainly been because the anemone started acting up, and basically just certain corals became available that I wanted. I didn't actively go out and look for them, they just became available at the time. So while they'd got them, I decided to go for it. Checking through all the old tank details and stuff, this tank is actually, I started it a bit later than I thought. It's actually a year old on August the 7th. So this is actually an 11-month update. And everything's actually been going really well. On the last update, I think I was just coming to the end of trying a month without a water change, and then I was going to go back in and do a water change every week for a month to see how much better the tank fared. Now, at the time when I was coming to start the water change, I was actually running out of the salt that I'd been using, which was the D&D Pro Formula salt. Now, I decided as soon as that salt was up, because I'm using all of the other Red Sea elements, so all the supplements, the coral colours, the carbon, I'm pretty much using all the Red Sea stuff. I thought I may as well switch to the Red Sea salt, because I was a little bit concerned using the colours program, because I didn't know just what the trace elements were in the D&D Pro Formula salt. So I switched to the Red Sea Blue Bucket salt. I know the Red Sea Reef Care recipe for a mixed reef says to use the Coral Pro salt, but I've used that before and I found that the elevated levels, I just didn't really get on with it. Whereas the Blue Bucket has lower levels for your magnesium, your calcium and your alkalinity. So I switched over, and I knew initially that there'd probably be a couple of issues, just because the Blue Bucket has those lower levels. So I have had to up my dosage slightly, which I've done very, very slowly over the course of 2 to 3 weeks, and it's been going really, really well. Obviously the trick with this is to do things slowly. If you start doing things fast, you're going to lose like your SPS and stuff. So yeah, that's been going really well. I'm glad I've switched. It's actually really easy to mix compared to the D&D stuff. I literally weigh out the Blue Bucket salt, add it to the water, and literally it clears in minutes. Literally minutes. So I literally mix the salt, let it mix for a good 25 to 30 minutes until it's, well, it's clear in minutes anyway, but I'll leave it for 30 minutes. And then after that I'll put my heater in, bring it up to temperature, and then I'll do my 25 litre water change out of the sump. And yeah, that's been going, it's been going that well that I've decided to go back on with the water changes as I was doing previously. One a week, 25 litres. I have every now and again done a small 10 litre water change during the week, just when I was starting to switch the salt over, and like I said, it's gone really, really well. Now, as you can see, there's quite a bit more colour in the tank now. It was a little bit dull for my liking. Before there was a lot of green was tending to overtake the tank, so yeah, so I decided to add a little bit more colour. So if we just go in, and then I'll explain exactly what we've done. Okay, so straight away there we have a purple torch with fluorescent yellowy green tips. Now that I got that off mailordercorals.com. It was just 35 quid. Now if I was to get that from my local fish store, I'd have been paying 60 to 70 pound for that. It's huge. It's absolutely massive, that thing. And it was so big. I mean, I don't know if you remember from the videos before. If you haven't watched the videos before, watch those and you'll see the tank before. But my green Goniopora was actually on that ledge. But this was so big, and I didn't want it obviously touching anything else, so I literally swapped it over, which is now there. And he's, to be fair, since I've put him there, he's actually done even better as well. He's actually he started growing. I've noticed a lot of small heads growing in between the bigger heads, also some small heads around the base, so he's also actually growing. Next to the purple torch, I know technically he's probably a little bit close really for my liking, I need to sort that out, but I've got a pink Goniopora. Now I've been after one of those for quite some time, couldn't really see any anywhere other than online, and I think the one time I actually did see them in a fish store, they wanted £89 for literally a frag the size of a 2p piece, and I thought, I'm not paying 89 quid for something that small that could easily die. So anyway, I found a new fish store, Maidenhead in Rugby, and they're actually a marine specialist, really decent place. If you want decent coral, go there, they're really good. If you're in the Midlands, it's worth a look. And I got that for, I think it was 49, I think it was. And that's literally a long tentacle Goniopora. As you can see, my green plating Monty, that's just literally going from strength to strength. I had a bit of an accident. I was cleaning the glass one day and my Tunzi care magnet came off, hit the flow, landed on the coral, and actually you see that white piece there, actually broke a corner of it off. I'll show you that in a second. But it has started to encrust onto the rock really well, and it's now starting to come towards the glass. So that's clearly happy, that's doing well. If we go over here, you'll probably remember that my mushrooms were having babies. There is a tiny one underneath, but actually that top mushroom has actually split and it's now moved off to the right. So I've now got 4 mushrooms. That's growing really, really well. Down in this corner, again, I don't know if you remember, but I used to have Paulson Xenia in this corner. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't want to take it out just because it added so much movement. But the problem was it actually reached all the way over here, nearly towards this cave, and it just got so big and it was starting to latch onto the rock. And I thought, if I don't move this now, I'm going to have a serious problem. It's going to overtake. And I was in the fish shop, went over for some salt, and they'd actually got this bubble coral in. Again, another coral I'd wanted for quite some time. Hadn't seen them in the shops, but he'd actually got one in. Now, the thing I've noticed with these, I mean, you can just about see one on the top there. They have actually got these quite long sweeper tentacles that come out and sting other corals around it. So I've put it on the sand, away from everything else. Obviously, if those mushrooms start to grow towards it, then they're going to be in trouble. But that's going really, really well, that ball coral. I feed it once a week with a special blend of food that I've been putting together. I'll show you that in another video. But yeah, that's been going really well. There, I've got a red pink Lobo. Now, the reason I got that, obviously I wanted to add some colour, but the reason I got that is because I'm actually looking at possibly getting a Scully for underneath there, for down there in that gap there where that blasto is. Now, obviously Scullies are very expensive. You're talking 125 to 175 quid for a decent one. The last thing I wanted to do was go and spend 175 quid in a coral and have it die. Now, that Lobo there, that was 50 quid. Feed very similar to the Scullies, very similar type of coral. So I thought, you know what, let's go for that. Let's see how it goes. If it does alright, if it does well, maybe in a few months I'll try for a Scully and let's see what happens. But at the minute, it seems to be doing okay. Seems to be doing alright. Actually, it looks a little bit bleached around the edges on this camera, but it's not. It's absolutely fine. So yes, that's going really well. The hammer, as always, that's doing great. Really good growth, really fanning out well. Yeah, that's doing really, really good. As you can see, I don't know if you just saw there, but to get to the year marker, we decided that we were going to go for a pair of mandarins to celebrate getting to that year marker. I know it was a little, I know technically it's a little bit early, but I popped into the local fish store yesterday. They literally went in there yesterday. Here he comes, he's just coming out. And they'd got him in, they'd got a mated pair in, £19 each. So I thought, you know what, it's a good price, they look really healthy. They were eating as well, so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. I know it's a bit early, but I'm just going to go for it. So we did. So we put them in yesterday. Literally within the first 3 minutes of them being in though, one of my boxer shrimps decided to grab hold of one and started carrying him away. So I managed to save him, and thankfully since then he's been okay. They've kind of stayed clear of him, but yeah, nearly a disaster before we'd even started. My green Stylophora, that again is going from strength to strength. I don't know if I can show you from the side, bit of a side angle, show you how it's getting on. It looks great from the side. Growth doing really well. Really, polyps constantly out. Really enjoying its time in the tank. Another one of my favourites, purple stylo. Don't know if you can see from the last video, but again, nice thick branches, nice white tips, growing really well. I'm hoping that keeps growing out, to be honest. That's doing really well. The green barley slimer on the top there, obviously I've got the two. Not doing as good, to be honest. It's hanging in there, it's doing okay, but I found the culprit. It's my bicolour blenny. The polyps are trying to come out. It was doing great. I mean, it's still bright green. You probably can't tell in this light, to be honest, but it's still bright green. Polyps are trying to come out, and then the blenny has a bit of a peck at it, and the polyps go back in. I'm hoping once my little girl's tank is ready, the blenny will be moving on, and fingers crossed that will come back. It's doing okay at the moment. Limeberry Hystrix, again, that's doing really well at the front there. That's doing great. Nice white tips, growing outwards, lots of colour, doing great. And then just behind there, if that fish will get out of the way, peacock wrasse, I decided to move my purple plate to round the back to give it a bit more room, and with the piece of the green Monty that broke off, I've actually merged the two together to see if we can kind of grow them together. I've seen other people do it, and I thought, well, there's a bit broke off, I may as well try it. Look at the fish trying there, look. Thought I may as well give it a bash, see what happens. Since I moved the candy canes, they've been doing really well, and that head there, obviously I'd had no growth whatsoever for ages. The one on the left there was really splitting, and then the frag I've got on the right is really expanding. I'm hoping that will start splitting again soon as well. My Duncan coral, that was fine until about 10 minutes ago when the starfish touched it and it all went in. Annoyed it and touched it and it all went in, but that's absolutely fine. That's doing okay. And that's probably it for coral, other than the anemone. To be honest with you, he's an absolute nightmare. Since that last video, he's done 3 or 4 laps around the tank. I mean, one day he crawled all over the coral, and obviously in Christ, he's just killed a load of stuff. But actually, it all came back absolutely fine. It got off there pretty fast. So again, he might be another one moving on to my little girl's tank. We'll see. But the problem is the clowns love him. But we'll see. Before I go into the sump, I'll talk about my parameters. For this tank, I'll try and keep it as rock stable as I possibly can. My alkalinity, I try and keep it at 9.3. My magnesium, I keep that at 1350. And my calcium, I keep that at 450. Obviously, when I changed the salt, we had a bit of a dip on the calcium, the alkalinity and the magnesium, to be fair, just a touch. But I've got it all back up to scratch now. And the trick is, like I said, just do it slowly and you should be okay. So there we go. So we'll just go into the sump, and I'll explain a little project that I'm thinking about doing inside the sump. Let's just get the lights on for you. So I don't know if you can see, but we have done a few different things in the sump since the last video. For starters, the second batch of Miracle Mud is in. I was waiting for a red starfish skimmer to come into stock with a supplier. It's come in because the egg crate, to be honest with you, was an absolute nightmare. Skimmer kept toppling over. So as soon as that came in, I got the second batch of mud in. Whether that's helping with the colour, I've noticed obviously the colour of the fish and the colour of the coral is really starting to pop. I'm not sure. I do dose the coral colours every day. I'm dosing 6 ml of calcium. So with the Coral Colours program, I'm dosing 0.6 ml of each element out of the trace elements. Whether that's doing something, I don't know. Whether it's the mud, I don't know. but as long as it's, well, seems to me like it's helping. So I really rate the stuff. The fish are all really healthy. So yeah, the Miracle Mud for me is a big plus. On the right hand side there, I've got some SeaChem Biomatrix. I actually switched back to the plastic filter cups just because, I don't know if you've noticed, but I took out the Bubble Maggers Mini 70 reactor that I was just running flossing. That thing, to be honest with you, was an absolute nightmare. It was just spitting water everywhere. Yeah, I know it was running floss, but for me, the mess it was making as well, it just wasn't really worth it. So I went back to the plastic filter cup because I aim to use the SeaChem Biomatrix. That's in the bottom, and then I've got the floss on the top, which I change out daily, just so that the fish crap and stuff and the detritus doesn't go down into the matrix. And then when I change the floss over, I just give the matrix a good shake in the tank water, put the floss back on top, and we're good to go. Now, one thing I'm also thinking about doing, and it's literally just because I've got the mandarins now. I mean, there is pods in there, but I'm actually thinking about culturing my own copepods, just because it's cheap. It's dead easy to do and it's cheaper. So I've got an air pump coming through. I've got a big jar coming through. So I'll probably, in the next video, I'll go through that being built. I want to do something a little bit different with the videos, to be honest. But on top of that, with me having the Tunzi ATO nano osmolator there that just fills up my reefer ATO, and because I want to create a decent batch of pods in the system, and with the other three wrasses that are in the system, they're obviously munching them pretty quick. I'm actually thinking about converting the reefer ATO into a small refugium. Now, I'm not doing that for the nitrate and phosphate benefit because I control that anyway with NoPox. Obviously, it might help. We'll see. I mean, this tank is a big test for me, so I can take what I learn into the upgrade, which we're thinking about maybe a Reefer 525 or a 525 Deluxe. We're not sure. But yeah, so it's a bit of a test. I'm going to drill the ATO and turn that into a refugium, just so the pods and the amphipods and things like that have got somewhere to live and breed and stuff and go mad, and then get put into the main tank. That's the plan, so we'll see on that one. I've ordered the parts, I've ordered all the plumbing parts and the new pump and things like that, so I'll keep you posted on that. I am going to do a video about how I do it with all the drilling and things like that, so hopefully that will help you out. What else have we got? I'm trying to think. Other than that, I don't think in the sump anything's really changed. Temperature's still the same. Just keep it at that between 26 and 26.5. Dose is doing really well. That's the Camaro X4 Wi-Fi doser. I'm dosing 38 ml of alkalinity a day, 6 ml of calcium a day, and 15 ml of magnesium a day, and that's keeping everything in check. So yeah, so everything's been going really well. Skimmer's working really well. Biomatrix at the minute, we'll see. I've heard it's really good for your bacteria and stuff like that to grow in. Actually, a little bit like live rock, reduces ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate. So we shall see. Bit of a test. Oh, that's another thing actually. A mate of mine was selling 2 of his tiny little Aquamedic reactors. I'm literally going to have them off him, so when they come through, I'm going to attach them onto the left hand side. One batch of the mud is going to go into the Reefer ATO with the refugium, and I'm going to have 2 reactors on the side there, and in there I'm going to have Rowaphos running, and I'm also going to have a reactor full of more of the SeaChem Biomatrix, just for a little bit more filter media. But other than that, like I said, it's a big test. The next video I'm going to aim to do something a little bit different, and fingers crossed it'll be the Refugium ATO conversion. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully it's been beneficial to you all. And if you haven't already, like the videos if you can, subscribe if you can, and I'll aim to try and keep them going. If anybody's got any questions, pop them in the comments below, and I'll try and either aim to include them on the next video, or I'll get back to you, or I'll just try and help. But cheers guys, hope you enjoy the video. Bye bye.